Good, Joe. I'm
Okay.
ready to go.
All right, Michael. Great to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the program today.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, and looking forward to it.
I am too. So let's begin our journey with something that really was the biggest kind of bubble on our timeline, and that was COVID. It changed so much about our lives, the world collectively. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you approach life and work today?
I almost feel bad saying it, but getting through that era was not difficult. And I realized the immense amount of, call it privilege, call it just maybe head stuck in the sand. I don't know what to call it, but it wasn't that bad. I was fortunate enough to have a full-time job where we could easily go remote, and there was no hiccup there. Uh, we transitioned to homeschooling our kids for at least a year pretty easily. Although I found out real quick, homeschooling elementary school t kids is not my calling.
Uh-huh.
And just yeah, there were times where it was inconvenient, queuing in a line to get into the grocery store, or not being able to go out to dinner as often as you would like with my wife. But things were fairly normal for the most part, I'd say, as best as they could be at that time. Now, what I realized during that time, in my own kind of way of managing that time in our history, I guess, I became an observer of people in a way that I hadn't really observed before. It was, oh, I'm in the post office line. We're all 6 feet apart, and I'm noticing a guy at the front desk who's just mad and upset and really laying into the post office worker because the package he delivered or he had sent wasn't arriving. And rather than just like blanket toss that guy aside and say, "Oh, well, he's just being a jerk," it was, that's really interesting. Like, in this time, why is that his response? What's going on in his life that sort of emotion is elicited from standing in line at the post office?
Yeah.
I watched the news more regularly back then, as I think we all did, but seeing the response to the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, and the the reaction from, I'll call it, both sides. There were much more than, it wasn't a dichotomous thing, but just I became an observer of people in a way that I hadn't really practiced that much since my journalism days. And it's been the story ever since then.
That was an interesting time to study the psychology of humanity because I
Yeah.
remember after George Floyd, it was like, what do you expect? Everybody's locked up, the economy's falling apart, people that don't have money have less money. And now it turns into a class and race war. And what do you guys want them to do? Just stay inside and just be like
Yeah.
complicit? I mean, it's not like I'm advocating for any of that, but if you peel back the layers and understand how humans work, at that point, everybody was like, it's summertime. We're going to get out. We're going to at least have our voices heard for a little
Yeah.
while. But at that point, I think it turned into more of a super spreader and all that. The one thing I noticed too is that road rage, like people got way more aggressive on the road.
I don't know that I noticed that, but I notice it now more a lot. Maybe it's
Maybe
stuck.
maybe that was it. It was a latent kind of block for
Yeah.
a while. But yeah, now it's like every little thing is like a NASCAR event when you drive.
And you touched on something, the latency there. I think at least what I perceived, was COVID was this flashpoint. That period of our life was our flashpoint that allowed for all the stress that we had carried, that we had been carrying, for many different groups of people.
Yeah.
I can understand why people took to the streets after George Floyd's killing.
Yep.
I can see it and I understand it. And it's not just the response to that one incident, but it's this groundswell of emotion that had been lying beneath the surface for so long. I
Yep.
think COVID just gave us a lot, that time in our history gave us like I said, a flashpoint that all of the emotion, all of the
Mhm.
stress came to the surface. And for, call it whatever you want, like the the totality of our humanity came bursting out.
It did.
Good, bad, and neutral, whatever it was. It was just a very interesting thing to sit back and be an observer of that rather than try to get wrapped up in it.
So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis with marketing, speaking, coaching. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids at career day. You're in a school, they're about 12 years old, and one of the kids just wants to know what you do for a living. How do you synthesize your day job to make sense to their brains?
Well, on the coaching and communication side of things, it's funny because to the 12-year-old sitting in a career day at school, I would tell them, look, I teach you the things that you're not going to learn in this classroom. The things, how we were taught to communicate, how we are taught to communicate in our formal education. There's a lot of good stuff about it. We learn grammar and I before E, except after C, and we learn sentence structure and we learn how to write a persuasive essay. But we miss in so many ways the other half of conversation, which is how do we get out of others what's important to them? How
Yeah.
do we uh, point our curiosity at somebody rather than our certainty? How do we ask more questions rather than assume we know all that we know based on our limited view of a situation or the facts or the information? We also live in a world where the phrase alternative facts have literally crossed someone's lips. So you got to deal with that. It is, I would tell them, I help people communicate in ways that they never learned in school and that you're not going to. And that is not a judgment or an indictment on teachers or the school system, but it is a thing. Now, on the marketing side, my full-time job, I tell stories, man. My job is to tell stories to bring people into an experience, whether that is selling software, whether that is, getting people to attend a webinar or a live session. I try to connect what we do to the story that may be running through a human being's mind at that moment and hope that it resonates.
So speaking of telling a story, growing up, what was your favorite marketing campaign that you watched in commercials and on TV?
Oh
Did you have a
boy.
favorite one?
I can remember so many commercials from my youth, but I don't know that I necessarily pegged one as a favorite. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is funny. When I lived in Manhattan, Kansas, and I was going to school at Kansas State University, we got all the Topeka, Kansas news stations and channels, and there's a car wash in Topeka called Eagle Auto Wash, and they had just the silliest, stupidest jingle, but it got stuck in my head.
Uh-huh.
I can sing that song today pretty easily.
Yeah, it is amazing how those little things will just get absolutely lodged. I remember the most magnanimous one when I was a kid was when Mean Joe Green threw his jersey to that kid in the
Okay, yep.
tunnel for Coke. Those things, because I think about my generation when you said that, like it ignited like 1,000 marketing fireworks because there were so many seminal things. Buy the world a Coke, the Pepsi Challenge. There was all these seminal campaigns that whether or not you bought the product, you were talking to people about it. And that's the power of it.
Joe, one that you just jogged my memory. One of the ones that comes to mind, and they've done this for years now, but I can remember it from a very early age, are Subaru commercials
Yeah.
because they took storytelling to its height
Uh-huh.
in describing their cars. I think we all know the tagline for a Subaru, love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Now, one of the commercials I remember the most is you see all these parents doing the dishes, staring off blankly into space, or like cleaning a window or cleaning the car, just like you can tell they're thinking about something. And then it switches to video or an image of their kid driving their car, and they're in these crazy scenarios. One, the car is spinning on its top side while the kid's texting. It's the parents' imagination of everything that their kid is going to get into when they first start driving. I've got a 16-year-old. He's about to start driving on his own soon. I feel this
Yep.
deeply, Joe. But the end of the commercial is the mom staring at the out the kitchen window as she's kind of mindlessly doing the dishes in the sink, and the kid pulls in the driveway, and you can just see the relief wash over her. And then it
Yeah.
says, "Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru." And it talks about safety rating. It gets in there. It gets into safety ratings and how safe these cars are, but they story told in
Yeah.
such a way that, man, if you're a parent of a kid who is driving, will drive, all that stuff, it just you contrast that to like a Chevy commercial where they're just dropping cars out of the
Yeah.
ceiling and talking about their JD Power Awards. And I'm like, I don't give a crap about that.
Yeah. Or driving through a mountain. I've never ever heard or known anybody that's like, I'm gonna drive up that mountainside.
Exactly. Or like or like d drift in a snowbank in
Yeah.
my Lexus.
Yeah. It's like if my insurance company sees me do that, I'm gone. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. But man, the storytelling of those Subaru commercials is wonderful.
It
They're
is
great.
amazing.
They're great.
So let's find out how we got here. What did you want to be when you were that age at career day? What was your dream gig?
I wanted to be an astronaut.
Okay.
I wanted to be an ornithologist, which is a bird watcher.
Wow.
But astronaut was probably the thing that caught me for the longest as in terms of like what I really thought I was going to do with my life.
So what was the coolest bird you saw growing up that made you want to do that? Was there a moment?
Oh my gosh. Not a moment, a series of little moments and just going out with my grandpa out in the country in southeast Kansas and bird watching down there and just
Yeah.
seeing all the birds. I remember the first time I ever heard a golden eagle, or excuse me, a red-tailed hawk. A red-tailed hawk. We were out in the country. We were at this low bridge crossing that my grandpa always took us to, and it was flying above. And I heard it for the first time, and I was like, "That's the coolest thing." Because
Yeah.
they actually in movies, when you see a bald eagle and they do the screech, that's often the sound of a red-tailed hawk that they
Yeah.
use. It's
Yeah.
that loud screech noise of a bald eagle kind of has a chirping sound that it
Yeah.
makes. But my favorite is a little falcon called a kestrel. It's a really bright, multicolored blues and rusty gray, rusty oranges and whites. It's just a cool looking bird, man. But it's pretty small. It's about, I'd say, not 8 to 10 inches long, and just a really cool looking bird, man. I love seeing those things.
Yeah, for sure. So where'd you grow up? Where were you born and raised?
Born in Manhattan, Kansas, and then raised in the Kansas City area in Bonner Springs, just
Okay.
outside KCK.
Yeah. Where the old amphitheater out there. I had many, many, many concerts and memories out there.
I went to many there, and it will always be Sandstone
Sandstone.
Amphitheater to me. They
Yes,
can
it
call it
will.
whatever sponsor name they want to call
Yeah,
it. It's Sandstone.
forever. Forever. So let me ask you this. What was it that you saw? What seeds were planted early on that gave you this prowess for marketing, this desire to get into communication, study the habits, and help people communicate better? How did this happen?
I knew I always liked being in front of people. I always liked telling stories. I always liked the attention on me. So from the moment that I could, I ran for class president. I had to give a speech in front of the entire school, and I was fine. I was cool with it. It was great. I was ready to go. My campaign slogan, if you will, and this was in the fifth grade, was walk, run, or ride a bike to come and vote for Mike. And so I knew that, all through high school, I was in mock trial where we were fake lawyers trying fake cases in a fake court, a real courtroom actually. But um, I knew that I was class president all 4 years of high school. I loved giving talks and speeches. I gave sermons at church on our youth Sunday, and I just really enjoyed that. But that, for whatever reason, never stuck when I went off to college. I was a good student, and so I went to K-State, who has they have a wonderful engineering program there. I liked building Legos as a kid, so I went to Kansas State as a civil engineering major, and that was a horrible choice. I nearly failed out. I got put on academic probation, and after my third semester, I was on academic probation. And I just knew like civil engineering is not going to be for me. And that was the first time in my life that I started asking myself, okay, if I'm not doing civil engineering, what do you want? what do I want? What is this thing gonna be? What do I want to make of myself? And I looked at two things. I said I could go the kinesiology and the sports training route. I always had an interest in sports and the movement of the human body. My dad was a bodybuilder. He has a degree in kinesiology. I thought I could maybe do that. But then I started thinking and looking at journalism for whatever reason. I said, hey, I like to write. I like sports. Maybe a sports writer. It's kind of like if you've ever seen that Seinfeld episode where George Costanza loses his job and he's like, I could be a color commentator on those, for sports games. Like, yeah, I could do that. And that's
Yeah.
kind of had the mentality I took. I was like, ah, I could be a sports writer. And I got into journal. That's the route I took. I got into journalism and it just fell in line for me.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the writing. I loved the other half of communication. Like I said, I'd been in front of people and telling my story or delivering my thoughts and ideas and beliefs. But a journalist has to ask questions.
Yeah.
A journalist has to be curious. A journalist has to tell other people's stories rather than their own. And that got its hooks in me. And that has been, whether I've been in marketing, whether I've been a TEDx speaker coach, whether I've been a communications coach, that's how I talk and how I teach people.
We're kindred spirits, man. My first real foray into journalism was a sports writer at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And those four
Yeah,
years were some of the best years of literally purely being in that journalistic world of covering and
it's
writing.
beautiful.
It was wonderful, dude. Totally cool.
It's the best. I
Yeah,
miss it. I don't miss the pay and the hours, but I miss
right.
the actual work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. So let me ask you this. On this ride that you've been on, figuring out where your place is in the world and effectively delivering for clients, who's been that inspiration, that muse, that hero for you?
For my work or from my clients?
Just for you, for your soul, for you finding your place in the world. Because when you start getting to this professional place, everybody wants to feel satisfied. They want to feel their place, and you clearly have your place. Who
Yeah.
has been that inspiration for you that's allowed you to navigate and evolve to where you're at today?
Mm. I'll tell you two that maybe won't come as much of a surprise to folks. One is when I first heard Simon Sinek's work. I just connected with it in a way that yeah, he's top three in terms of my bucket list interviews that I would love to do. Uh, and to hear him talk about not just business, but people in the ways that he talks about them, the curiosity that he brings to understanding the person across from him and what they might be motivated by and what they care about and how their work becomes for so many of us part of their identity. Whether you can tell somebody, don't make your work your identity all you want, but it's the thing that most of us do most of our lives.
Yeah, yeah,
And so how could it not be? Now, of course, you want to have that boundary between who you are as a person and what you do for work or what you do to make money, I should say. But man, the person that you are in that job, in that career, is as much your identity as anything else. And he just brings those together so well. And I just appreciated his insight and perspective from the moment I heard him. Another would be, of course, Brene Brown in a similar vein. She has a way, in particular, in her writing, her book Braving the Wilderness, what it means to actually step out into the wilderness when so much of the world is telling you to do this thing, to go over here, to be this, to do that, to say these things, to fall in line with this ideology or this belief system, to say, actually, that's not what I believe, and I'm going to step over here and be alone here for a while. Her writing has a way of giving language to the deep feelings of my soul that have guided and became a lot of principles. The same language that I use, comes and is inspired by her. Those for sure are two. Now, I also have to point out a professor at Kansas State. His name is Fred Brock. He was my fundamentals of interviewing professor at Kansas State in my journalism class. And he is the one more than any who taught me what it means to actually be a great interviewer because I sucked when I first started. I just thought, oh, you go to the games and you get to write about it and you get the free media meal and you get to attend a game for free. Nah, you actually got to ask some questions here. You got to be curious. You got to write about what you see. He I will never forget, he in one classroom, he brought in tapes of some of his interviews. And I just could not believe what he was able to get people to admit out loud
Wow.
because of his curiosity, because of his willingness to ask the next follow-up question,
Yeah.
his willingness to stay on a topic rather than feel forced to just move the interview along. His ability to recall something that somebody else said. I'll never forget that class in particular. That day he brought in tapes of his interviews because I was like, that's what I want to be. That's how good I want to be. And he actually ended up being one of my references for my master's degree. So
On.
uh, love that guy. He's amazing. Great dude.
So, since I understand that world that you're talking about with sports journalism, it's the land of a thousand dreams. There's obviously a place that you want to go to.
Yeah.
When you were doing that, what was the ultimate job in sports journalism that you wanted?
I at the time wanted to write for Sports Illustrated.
Okay,
Yep.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
many of the writers that I grew up, not, I won't say idolizing, but following and really molding my writing around worked, or at least contributed to Sports Illustrated. Joe Posnanski being one.
yeah.
Joe Posnanski, formerly of the Kansas City Star, just a phenomenal storyteller and writing muse. He was at the top of the list for sure. Mitch Albom was up there as well. I know he did a
Yeah.
lot of contributions uh, to Sports Illustrated. You know, he's written a ton of books that have
He's so
nothing to do with
good.
sports, but so good, man. Those guys are the muses in my writing.
I interviewed Joe last week and I told him when I was a kid
Oh,
growing up,
fantastic.
I was like, you always were the happy guy in the column. Like he
Yeah,
always smiled. And I was like,
yeah,
you gave me hope. Because
yeah,
there seems to be this kind of thing where all of the writers are kind of serious and they're in their writer mode. But he was always just kind of like this happy dude. And it was like,
yeah.
that's a cool world. That could be a world to, if he's smiling like that, he digs what he does. So there you go. That's it.
Agreed.
It's good.
I noticed the same thing too, man.
Yeah, all the
And
time.
I never missed an article of his in the Kansas City
Yeah.
Star.
His was great. Really was. So, what is the motivation? You got all these different kind of levels of work that you're doing. You have to do it at a high level. You have to really deal with people. So, there's a lot of strings. There can be stress. You're dealing with the human psychology. What is it every day that gives you this energy, this motivation to do this work? You obviously have a soul and a family too. What is
Yeah.
it collectively for you to do it at a high level?
I gotta attribute a lot of it to just genetics and my mom. I get my energy from my mom and her genetics. She's the most intense and just energetic woman you will ever meet. When she puts her mind to it, it's gonna get done no matter what. I take after that for sure. We could be super like literal. I exercise a lot. It's funny. I talked about eventually maybe being in kinesiology. Years later, I became a personal trainer for a while. I got my certification in personal training, but I exercise a lot. That's always been an important part of it. And I feel like when I start my day with that, I am raring and ready to go. And for me, it is, I mentioned the work of Simon Sinek years ago at the company I worked at. We did our own professional wise. And mine is to be in selfless service to those in my charge to help them meet their career and life goals. That's why I do what I do, whether it is as a marketing leader in my full-time role, whether it's with my company Rethinking Communication as a coach, speaking, communicating, marketing, those things all as a leader in marketing, those things all help others meet their goals. And if I can pay attention to that and put my head and point my direction in that, or point myself in that direction every single day, that gives me a lot of energy and motivation because I see the fruit of that in what other people are able to accomplish for themselves. And I love it. My
Yeah.
faith, man, I can't not mention my faith as well. That's a major factor in my life too. That I just want to be somebody of high character, of trust, and somebody that pours into others in the way that, my faith has sustained me.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, in sports journalism, trying to figure your life out, your dreams are popping for Sports Illustrated, and you walked into the room right now, there was a film projector and there's a 60-second highlight reel that comes up on the wall after you hit play. Are you going to believe that your life turned out this way?
Huh, no. No, not at all. Marketing was never on the table. Coaching people was never on the table. At that time, at 18 years old, I was still on the civil engineering track. And so I wasn't even thinking about journalism or writing or anything communication wise. It was, I'm going to be an engineer. And you run a 60-second clip of what my life is now. Not a chance, man. That would have been a major trip.
So what's the highlight? When you look at that 60-second highlight reel, what is the thing that you're the proudest and the happiest about?
Oh, marrying my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, we just celebrated 19 years. That out of that marriage has come so much of what I have, not necessarily in terms of material things, but just I can't imagine my life being anything else
Yeah.
than her husband, the father to my two children. Uh, Everything has come from that moment and that decision when we said I do.
So when you see the big word retirement flash up in your mind, what do you think? Does that even factor into your
No,
no?
no, I don't. And not because I think I'm going to have to work for the rest of my life, because of the economy. Like it's not there are parts of me that's like, yeah, I'm probably going to have to work in some way or form or fashion, but I don't think I can stop. I don't, I'll always be doing something just because that's how I'm wired. But also, I saw both of my grandfathers when they retired and no longer had that motivation to go and work and produce and serve. They were gone within a couple years. And that was very hard to witness both of their declines in that way because they were as sharp as ever until that day when they retired and they officially said like I'm done. And I don't want to get to that point.
So everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone in all these different capacities, but you ultimately run the show that we see. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am a highly nuanced creature. uh, I I sometimes get not bogged down, but I can go inward and to what we were talking about earlier, consider all the different possible paths and directed directions. I often have a gut feeling that steers me in the right way very quickly, but my ability to consider the other perspective, to ask the question, what else could be true here? Uh, that brings a level of nuance and complexity to relationships that I know others appreciate. I've been told others appreciate that. And that is that means a lot to me. Uh, I'm a competitive guy as the day is long, but nuanced is, if I'm described that way, I'm good with that.
So if you could be a sports journalist again and hop into a time machine and cover one game, one event, be there, cover it, the whole thing, what would it be? Or
In the past or
yeah, in the past. Yeah.
okay. Hmm.
Or even
Oh,
witness it.
it just immediately came to me. The Chiefs Super Bowl a few years, the first one Mahomes won.
Yeah.
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 Being a Chiefs fan growing up in Kansas City all my life, that was unreal. Yeah.
You know what I noticed about him, and I never knew this until I went to training camp. So I went up there Saturday, and I always lately the last couple of years I'll take a really good camera, he is completely full of energy. He's talking,
Yeah.
he is constantly in motion. Literally, like if you just watch him, at some point, just like even during a game, he is in constant motion. And it's just a testament to the fact that
Yeah.
he has all of this energy and he's always doing something. He's always making something happen,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
I've
That,
I've had the chance to go to a couple Chiefs games here in Denver when they played the Broncos, and yeah, you do. He's always pacing on the sideline. He's never still.
yep.
He's always if the team's huddling up and he's waiting for that play with his little his little give me the play
Yeah.
motion that he does. He's always walking. He's not standing still. That's
Yeah.
true.
Absolutely. So if anybody wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they have any questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
The hub of everything I do is michaelashford.com. That's my website. And
Okay.
sign up for my newsletter there. It comes out once a month. I talk about not just the tactics of how to communicate well, but how to change the mindset of communication that I think, as I mentioned earlier, we've all kind of been taught.
So I will put all those links. I'll put that link in the show notes. This has been great, Michael. Great
Appreciate
to
it.
meet you. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Joe.
your story. Thank you for your time and best of luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Same to you. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. So you